Hi everybody and welcome back to Kevin's Upfront Opinion today. So, a couple of days ago, or a few days ago at least, I did a video talking about Nigel Farage and could he change the UK and what would he have to actually do to change the UK, because everybody keeps on saying to me, vote for Nigel Farage, vote for Reform UK, they will save the country at the next election, which won't be potentially into about 2029, okay, unless they call an early one, which would take a vote of Parliament at the end of the day anyway. Okay, so realistically, we're not going to get an election for the next 4 years, roughly. So, I had a few comments, okay, and there was this one interesting one who said, Farage is the British Trump in waiting. He sold you the lie of Brexit. He talks well, but you cannot trust him. Beware at all costs. And I've got another person saying that he basically, where is it? I can't even see it. That he's just into the Doge thing, which is the American thing when Trump got Elon Musk to come in saying that they were going to save all these billions of pounds out of the budget. And to be honest, saved next to nothing, to be honest, which was a complete and utter waste of time. They saved money, but nowhere near the amount of money that they were claiming. So I thought I'd take a look at these and think, are they correct that Nigel Farage and Reform are to be avoided at all costs? And if I look at my own point of view, now my problem with Nigel Farage, it's not Reform as a whole, but primarily Nigel Farage. One, I don't believe he can run a party. Okay. Run a small thing like he's got at the moment. But if you're talking about running a government and a party where you're going to, in essence, have the best part of 300 MPs, I don't think he can do that. His ego is way too big. And I don't think he's capable of doing it. The thing with Rupert Lowe was a classic example. Somebody says something, a concern they've got, and it becomes something massive overnight, which it should never have become. There was no reason for it to become as big as it did. It was ridiculous. Then I look at Nigel Farage, and over the last 20 years, 30 years, whatever, the only thing he can really talk about is immigration. He hated the EU, and part of that was immigration, and he's still talking about it. Now, I'm not going to pretend that illegal immigration isn't bad, because it is. Trust me, it is. I did a video for Borderlines yesterday and spoke about how over 2,000 people have come over in the boats in the last 7 days. And 2 of those days were 0. Okay. So in 5 days, they've had an average of over 400 people per day, which is absolutely ridiculous, the amount that's coming over. So I appreciate immigration is important, but it's not the most important thing. Bringing jobs into the country, people being able to afford their bills. You know, what's going on or what the government's tried to do with benefits, let alone what they did when it came to the winter fuel allowance last winter. All these things are way more important than immigration at the end of the day. And I'm sorry to say it, whether people like it or not. The other fundamental problem, and this is something that somebody's actually spoke about. Well, both of them have. One's Brexit and one's Doge. So I'll come on to the Brexit thing first. The reality is, no matter what side of the coin you look at, both sides lied when it came to Brexit. If you look at the Remainers, they said, oh, we're going to get you a fantastic deal, a better deal than we got. Even David Cameron couldn't do that. Because they're not interested. If the EU weren't interested in giving us a fantastic deal, they're not going to do it. Even if we went back now, they're not going to give us a fantastic deal. We'd probably be better off than we are now. I'm not going to dispute that. We probably would be. Whether, and I voted to leave. Okay, and I did. I voted to leave. But the other side of the coin is the Brexiteers lied. They lied through their teeth. And at the time, I knew that they were lying. Whether you want to talk about the bus, which had nothing to do with Nigel Farage at the end of the day, and the claim that all these people were going to come from, was it Turkey or whichever particular Eastern European country it was, or Mediterranean country, all these people were going to come over if we didn't leave, and all this type of stuff, and telling us we were going to get this fantastic deal from the EU because they need us more than we need them. And it never happened. And why? Was that Nigel Farage's fault? No, it wasn't Nigel Farage's fault. Because soon as he won, he walked away. He walked away. Because he achieved what he wanted to achieve. Okay? It got us out of the EU. And then he walked away, basically, at the end of the day. He wasn't in government. He had nothing to do with government. So it had nothing to do with him at the end of the day on what kind of deal we were going to get from the EU. So he could say absolutely anything. It doesn't matter. Because the only people that can decide, or could have decided, what kind of deal we could have got when it came to Brexit was our government at the time, which was under Theresa May and then Boris Johnson, who neither one of them got us a good deal at the end of the day, and the EU had sod all to do with Richard Tice or Nigel Farage. They could go and say what they liked in the media and slate our government, which they are not going to be the only ones that have done it, and they're not going to be in the future. There's going to be plenty of other people that are going to slate our governments for what they did. So that's the reality when it comes to Brexit. So, did he lie? Yeah, he did. But virtually every single other politician at the time lied through their bloody teeths. Because nobody knew what Brexit was going to look like. Never been done before, so nobody knew what the potential could be. They were guessing. They were completely guessing. Now it brings me on to the other subject of Doge. Now, the reality is, this is an American thing. Because not Elon Musk, Donald Trump, on that election, he said that he was going to cut waste and everything. And that's what all politicians say that they're going to do. Oh, we're going to cut waste. We're going to make things better, blah, blah, blah. The usual rubbish that we all hear from politicians on a regular basis. Now, did he cut and save money? Yeah, he did. He did. So, in that essence, Elon Musk did what he said he was going to do. Did he save as much money as he claimed he was going to do? No. Now, out of some of the councils that Nigel Farage and Reform UK have won, they've said, right, we're going to bring Doge, the American Doge, into our councils to cut waste. Now, the problem is, and this is something somebody said to me, an ex-councillor said to me. When a council turns, so say for instance, you've got Conservative Council at the moment, and it turns Labour as an example. As an ex-councillor, he said to me, it will take 2 to 3 years for any decisions to cut in now. Any decisions you want to make, they're not going to be instantaneous. Because normally you've got contracts and everything, and the decisions have already been made for what's going to happen over the next year or two. So you can't affect them decisions. So anything that Nigel Farage thinks he's going to be able to do now, he ain't going to be able to do, because the decisions have already been made, and then they got to go through all the committees and everything, which all takes time. So unless it's emergency things, okay, he ain't going to be able to change diddly squat at the moment. And that's the reality of the case. Now, the problem is a lot of, and this is something I never actually realised until a little while ago, because obviously I run a newspaper. You know, if I look at Hampshire County Council always like to make themselves out to be poor. But they're not, because they've got a shed load of money in their reserve account. A shed load. Now, their primary account that they're always talking about, oh, there's not much money in it, that's a different story. But the reserve, loads. If I look at my local council, which is Gosport Borough Council, shed loads in the reserve account, not a lot in the main account. Now, the problem is, and I'm going to try and be a bit careful with what I say, is councils have taken cuts, heavy cuts, over the last decade because of the Conservatives. A lot of the things that councils want to do, that they should arguably be doing, they're unable to do. Now, one of the biggest problems you do have is that councils are putting this out to private companies. If you take, for instance, our recycling centre for where I live, it's run by a private company. Grass cutting, private companies. And this is the biggest problem you have within councils, but they're leasing it out to private companies, which is going to cost them more money. If they were doing it themselves and getting the people working for themselves, they'd save them money, because otherwise, you know, these private companies want to make money. They're not doing it for the love of it at the end of the day. So it's the councils that need to take a large look at themselves and think, right, do we want to make the best bang for our buck for the taxpayers? Rather than keep on increasing their council tax, because there's the argument it's going to go up by 4.99%, can we use a better bang for your buck? And that's the question that they've got to ask themselves. So I'm not going to keep on talking like I normally do. So let us know what you personally think in the comments below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all again a bit later.